Should try and hide that from you guys. We're sitting here chatting to Fiona, obviously, because we're walking around Ulth with Fiona. And we just want to ask you a couple of questions about what life is like living here, because not many people live here. I mean, if you come to the Algarve, you generally go and live on the coast, right? And you chose something different. Why would you do that?
Well, there's so many reasons. There's so many reasons. I lived in Lollet before, and I wanted to move because I wanted a bigger house. So my personal journey was, I had a small budget, and I wanted a garden and a view and a couple of bedrooms, and I wasn't afraid of a renovation. But basically my budget didn't stretch to anywhere around Lollet or south. So
and this was like 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
This was actually only 4 years ago that I started looking. And I knew Alte anyway because of the bike cafe, and I'm a cyclist, so I'd passed by Alte so many times. I knew Pedro from the bike cafe. And one of my...
So you came for Pedro?
I came for Pedro, don't tell Anna that.
Yeah, I guess Anna's his wife.
Yeah. And there was a few other non-negotiables that I was keen to get, like a walking distance of a shop, a cafe, a restaurant, you know, these things. Walkable house. And so, well, I had a very long list of everything that I wanted, ideally, you know. And I also wanted to be great for cycling. So for me, living up in the hills didn't frighten me at all, because as a cyclist, I already knew it. I knew these hills, I knew the roads, I knew the tracks so well already. And in fact, it was Pedro that then showed me the house that I then have since bought and renovated. And I haven't looked back. It's amazing.
Okay, cool. But why are we selecting Ulth? Surrounding Ulth, there's Messina's just over there, and there's is it Benzafine or Benafine? Benafine, which is just down that way. What else is around here?
Padern, not far.
Padern's beautiful.
Padern's really nice.
So why, like, I mean, Ulth is obviously much more beautiful, and it's an historical town. It's been restored by the EU and all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah, I guess if I'd found the right house in any of those other places, I might have considered it. But Alte was definitely on the top of my list after Lollet to live, partly because of the cycling connection for me. But once you're here, you've seen already, it's such a nice vibe. We've got the art. It's beautiful because there aren't any power lines. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but they've all been buried.
That was the EU money that came and did that.
Okay, that, once I realised and once you notice, you're like, oh my gosh. And then the view from my house is like unspoiled because of that. There's no power lines blocking it.
But it's so beautiful. It reminds me of Aldeia de Pedralva, which we went to a couple of weeks ago, if you guys have been watching. Which is this, they bought a whole village and turned it into a hotel.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But this is real. There's people living
exactly, this is real. It's not fake. And there's actually a lot of doer-uppers still here.
Yeah, we walked past.
Anyone's interested, there's plenty more.
We were walking around Alte and we saw this little place for 70,000. I mean, it's really small, but you could probably do an Airbnb there. So you just come along, buy it and just fix it up and then rent it out. But you were saying it's an amazing place to live. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I always say this, it suits me perfectly. I honestly don't think I could have chosen somewhere that suits me better. It's right in nature, the walking's amazing, the running, we've got the pools that I'm sure you'll show the viewers. We've got the waterfall. I mean, there's just so much here. If you like nature, there's a lot to offer. But it's so close to everything else as well. I feel that there's such a nice community. You don't have to plan to see friends. You just go down to the bar or the cafe and everyone's there. And I don't know, maybe some people wouldn't necessarily like to see the same people all the time.
I was going to say, is there a flip side to that? Because everybody knows everybody else's business.
Well, yeah, a little bit. But then you can have a bit of fun with that. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what people think or what people know about me. I've got nothing to hide anyway. And I don't know, I think that's like village life all over the world is the same thing.
Absolutely. But I mean, I remember speaking to a lady who was cutting my hair, and she was in a very small town in Algarve. And she's like, I just have to go to Villarreal Sant Antonio, which is the other side of the Algarve, to get away from this small town, you know, itchiness.
But I'm sure as a hairdresser, she probably sees the worst of it, maybe. There's probably a lot of gossip in a hairdressing salon. Maybe more than I'd see, I don't know.
Because you're basically working all the time anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm here in the...
If you think about it from our audience's point of view, like, you know, you're basically coming from across the Atlantic or across from England, and you may be a little bit older, and you want to come and retire here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful place to retire. How quickly can you get down to any kind of civilization?
Well, it depends what you mean by civilization.
I know,
I
sorry,
call
that
this
was a bit of a
civilization. But if you want to go, like, Lole is 20 minutes,
Yeah.
Messinge is 12 minutes. And then if you want to get to the coast, the quickest is like 35. Olhos d'Água, Vilamora area, 35
Continent and
minutes.
Messinge, huh?
Continent, Intermarché in Messinge.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
15
grocery
minutes
stores
max.
there, yeah.
Yeah, but we've got 2 here as well, 2 little ones, enough for what you'd need day to day. We've got everything here. And also the cool thing is we've got the bread man and the fish man that come around beeping and selling you
fantastic.
bread and fish and all of that, which is so cool. Like, I love that part of life.
The vegetables here, then, are they really good? Because a friend of mine just said that she goes to these small little merceerias instead, and they're much, because they're all organically homegrown.
So good. They're so good. And I don't know, it's part of village life too, I'm sure in other places, but I'll go home and have a bag of lemons on my doorstep, or cake, or you know, things like that. People
That's
here
right.
have been so welcoming to me, and I know I speak Portuguese, and I know I bring, you know, work to a lot of the locals because of my job. But I know plenty of other people who've moved here. If, for example, I've got one couple Americans that have just moved here. They're actually my age. So they're unusual demographic. In fact, they've just had a baby. And they don't speak a whole load of Portuguese, but they've settled in great. And they've just got a great, very chilled attitude. They're very calm people. They don't want the big city life anyway. This is perfect for them. And the lady, she's gone to the free Portuguese lessons that you can have at the school here.
Oh, cool.
So if you're a resident here, you get free lessons, and it was 3 months of 3 times a week for 3 hours. So it's intense, but by the end of that, she spoke really good Portuguese. And so that's a really good way in to get a little bit more comfortable with being here, somewhere a bit more rural.
You have to learn that.
You don't have to, but it's so much better if you do.
Okay, sorry, I should rephrase that. It's much more, I always say this, that it's, you know, you don't have to, but it helps a lot and you integrate a lot better.
You'll
You
enjoy
it
life so much better.
Like, I was just walking down the road now, and there were a couple of cars, and there's a lady walking past me, and I said, muito trânsito. Like, there's lots of traffic, you know, and
Yeah.
sort of being a little bit funny. And she loves it. She's like, yeah, sometimes. And,
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
it's
It's the small interactions. Even if you can just do that,
and everyone
it goes
greets
a long
each
way.
other in the streets, and
Yeah.
it's a good old-fashioned living, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like there's still a lot of that here, and I don't know. It's small things about. There's a lot of sharing still. Like I said, of like the lemons or the cake, whatever. There's people who grow their own vegetables and will just share all amongst us. And there's still a lot of that in the village. That's so nice.
A lot of community feel, huh?
Yeah.
Is there like a market or somewhere where people?
There actually is. It's I can't remember. It's once a month in down opposite this little supermarket. There's a market area. I'll show you later.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
No, because there's only 426 people that I think in Ulth that I've figured out from my website.
Yeah,
that I've found.
that's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. It's one of the smallest towns in the Algarve.
Yeah, and I think I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure that was maybe double or triple, maybe 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when all of the ruins were actually occupied and they had lots of families in.
Sure, yeah.
It would have been a different place back then. It would have been interesting to go back.
But it feels full and it feels like a working town. Like if you go
Yeah.
into central Portugal, like you do a lot as well. I mean, you know those towns are abandoned. And there's
Yeah.
like maybe one family or two families left.
Yeah. That was another reason that I wanted to come here, was probably for me at the time when I bought it, which is 2021, Alte was maybe on the edge of that, like a couple of valleys north, and you're on the edge of depopulation still for sure in those villages, and that's not far away at all. But Alte felt like it was still attracting people. There was still a lot going on. Even since I've been here 3.5 years now, there's been a couple of places open and a new restaurant open. We've just had a new pizzeria open like last week.
Wow.
And that feel is really nice. To be on that trajectory, you feel like you're going in a good direction.
I wonder why that is. Why else? Why is it because it's so beautiful? Maybe it's got critical mass and it's attracting more people.
I think it's the combination of all the things we've spoken about, plus the tourist attraction of the pools and the waterfall. Bring people here, and I think it only needs
because
that.
the waterfall gets shared on Instagram a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. But there's also the school as well. It's like essentially like a sixth form college, and that brings quite a lot of the younger generations here. At least even if they're here for only a year or two, they then know Alte, and that, I don't know.
What do you mean a sixth form college? I mean, it's like
it's
secondary
like
school.
Yeah, it's not a secondary school, but it's like people for 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
10, 11 and 12 grades, yeah.
Yeah, that's the school that's there. So it's the professional college, they call it, and they have loads of different courses there. But it's of that age of people.
Okay, great. So there are some young people around here as well.
Yeah.
Not just old people, which is
Yeah.
often a turn-off for younger people.
Yeah.
Oh. Would you ever want to live in a city? I mean, you're a country girl, right?
Nah. Yeah, I'm a country girl. That's just me personally. I'd never live in a city.
I'd never say never, but I'm pretty much love the country as well. Just having this peace. We can hear the birds right now. You probably can as well.
Yeah.
It's just so peaceful.
The swifts and the
So
swallows.
peaceful.
It's so nice.
So Fiona, when you first arrived here, what is it like? I mean, you basically moved in. Did you move into a house? You said it was a bit of a ruin, and that was like in 2021, right?
Yeah,
4 years
21,
ago.
just after COVID, or just kind of during COVID, it was habitable, but not really. It was needing to be gutted. I needed to take internal walls out and put beams in and stuff like that. And it was a lot of demolition actually on the inside. Once I'd looked in and seen what there was to be done, there was no way I was going to move in. So, in fact, I rented in the village from a neighbour who down by the Font Pequena, which was actually an interesting project in itself because I realised how much colder it was by the river than up at mine, and it's like a 300-metre walk difference.
Wow.
It was really interesting because I was there during the winter. And so I rented for probably 8 months, 9 months whilst all the building work was going in.
And the building work, I mean, finding builders in Algarve has been tough for us personally.
Yeah.
But you've told me about how awesome your builders
It was, we were so lucky. I came across a kind of renovation that was being done locally. I noticed that there was a car with English plates outside, so I thought, I might just go in and see what their experience was, because I could see there was builders there, and I could see that the project was kind of must be nearing its end, because I could see the house was almost done. And they said, yeah, well, they're almost finished. I'll give them your number. They might call, and I thought, they'll never call. And in fact, they called.
And these are the guys from the Azores who brought the fish around.
The best builders in the world. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Had an amazing 8 months with them. They worked so hard and day and night, and they were so timely and such high quality and just great guys. They were fishermen, so sometimes they'd fish and then we'd cook the fish for lunch. I ended up cooking for them at lunch and stuff. We were really great friends. Amazing. And
But you wielded a sledgehammer as well. I mean, you're quite handy,
absolutely right? Full on with them too. And yeah, we all pitched in because that's how it is. And it was the start of my business, so I didn't have a ton of clients then either. So I mean, I may as well put my time into the house. Sure. And going back to your question about how I felt when I moved, I think so much of it was I love DIY, as I think we might have spoken about anyway. And I was so excited to just get on with the house and get on with the renovation.
It is an exciting thing to transform it.
It was exactly that. Yeah. It was just so exciting to finally get my hands on something I could see has so much potential. And so I was just happy. It was a fun time because there was so much anticipation of what there was to come. And the builder stayed until I ran out of money. And then by that point, I could just about move in, so it was okay. But that's how it's done, right? Usually.
I mean, it'll never be finished, but is it finished now? It's technically finished.
I've learned a lot about building,
right,
and tiling and plastering and rock wall building and plumbing and
and insulation. That's the biggest challenge in the Algarve.
Yeah, you know what? The best thing I did, and this is a good hint for anyone, just don't skimp on the insulation. I spent a lot of money on insulation, and now I have no heating and no cooling in the house.
Wow.
Not a single thing. I have some ceiling fans, but that's not cooling. That's just moving air around, really.
Yeah. Excellent. That's really.
Yeah,
that's
and for
really
4 years I've lived like that almost, and it's been amazing. I will install a wood-burning stove just to be cosy. On some days it would be nice, but it's not a necessity. Amazing. Yeah.
And what about the other businesses here because Fiona's got a cycling business, right? And so you bring a lot of clients here.
Yeah.
We're sitting right now in a logement local, which is an Airbnb. And there's quite a few people here, right?
Yeah, it's a little guest house. So they have 9 rooms. They actually have 2 sister guest houses as well. One in Val de Fuseiros on the way to Silves, and then one in Silves. And they're both lovely, same kind of decor and things. It's really nice. And I started using it just purely because it was really the best one in the town, and I wanted my guests to be able to walk to restaurants and stuff like that. There's a hotel up the road in Alte as well. That's a little bit...
But when you started using it, right?
Yeah.
would you knock on the door and say, hello, Anna, or whoever it was, I'd like to bring you 10 clients or 18 clients? Whatever.
It didn't actually start like that. And in fact, for most hotels that I've worked with, I've maybe booked online first, so they have no idea who I am, and I just see what the experience is without them even knowing who I am. Because in a way, that's a little bit easier to get the feedback from kind of blind than going in, presenting yourself as this person that's going to bring them all these clients and whatever, and then maybe not being able to live up to that, or, maybe you're not going to get on with them, who knows? But in fact, obviously there was no problem here. They were so nice. And I believe the owners are actually in Lisbon, but the ladies who run this guest house here are amazing. They're so nice, and we've got a great relationship now. And in fact, to make it more bike friendly, which is my goal, to make Alt and my offering the best I possibly can for clients, because here they don't have a huge amount of bike space. I've actually rented a little house right across opposite from the hotel to store all of my bikes, so that's my bike storage.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and they love that. Obviously it works for them, works for me.
And then what about, although there's quite a few restaurants in town, right?
Yeah.
So you take 18 people or 20 people or 30 people sometimes.
Yeah, 30 I wouldn't be able to sleep here actually. The max here we can sleep is 18.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the rest of the restaurants I could take as many as I wanted basically. But same thing with the restaurants. I actually started coming here ages ago when I first moved, because obviously you go and eat out occasionally, and all the restaurants here are awesome, and the people here obviously love having the business. They're super nice, and we're friends now.
I was going to say, what's your relationship like with all the restaurant owners?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm not close with them, but, we'd speak in the streets, and they're brilliant with my guests, and they're very flexible with lots of dietary requirements and vegans and gluten-free and allergies and stuff like that. And a lot of my guests might have, slight issues there or whatever, and it can be a bit challenging.
It does all sound hunky-dory and absolutely perfect, but surely there must have been some interesting scenarios. You don't have to name names and things, but what went wrong?
What went wrong?
What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
I guess, this isn't really going wrong, but it's been tricky in the past on like Sunday nights when everything is closed. And now actually the pizzeria has just opened, so this has actually been great. But that's been a bit tricky in the past, because I've had to...
You said you took pizzas down to the
Yeah, we did that the other
waterfall.
day. Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
Yeah? So that's lovely. It's just like taking pizzas down to the waterfall and just chilling and enjoying the local
I
amenities.
just ordered 15 pizzas and took them away and got a big cool box full of drinks. They loved it. I loved it. I usually think if I love it, the guests will like it too.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some disastrous stories, but I'm going to have to think about that and get back to you.
Yeah, think about it.
I'll rack my brains.
So, I mean, it sounds like there's 426 people in the town, as we said earlier, and it sounds like you're making a little bit of an economic impact here.
Well, I mean, I think so, yeah. And it's partly the reason I really find my job satisfying, because I love to be able to give back to some of these people that are doing an amazing job working here, in the restaurants and here in the guest houses, and not just here, but all over Portugal where I do my other tours as well. And not just giving money straight to the big hotels on the coast,
Have you ever experienced any animosity to you as a foreigner, because you're a foreigner?
I think occasionally if I introduce myself on email first and they see my name as English, they don't assume I can speak Portuguese, and so I'm maybe treated as like a normal foreigner. But then as soon as I'm there and I can speak Portuguese to them, it does open a lot more doors, and people do tend to be a bit more friendly. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. But yeah.
And being a woman, does that ever, like in Portugal, have you ever had any issues? Because you must have. I mean, you probably have issues in England.
I've heard of people who have. For example, there's a friend who's trying to get stuff done in terms of the licensing for her house rebuild, and she keeps going to the town council and they keep asking, where's your husband? And she keeps saying, I'm the owner of this house. I'm the one that speaks Portuguese. Why do we need my husband? But I've never experienced that myself. Okay. And I also wouldn't let something like that affect me personally anyway.
Yeah, but you've got a very different outlook, I think.
Yeah.
But I have heard that, and it's not necessarily with Portuguese, like sometimes there's Bulgarian or Romanian builders who are sort of refusing to speak to the wife because...
Oh, wow.
Because of... who's the owner of the man? Where's the man?
Yeah, where's
But that's not a Portuguese thing, you know what I mean? I think the Portuguese
think
are a little,
so.
I don't think
No.
they're that bad at all.
I don't think so at all.
And you
No.
probably get that anywhere in the world, so
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
sadly. So why would anybody want to move? Do you think anybody should move to Ulth? Do you want more people in Ulth?
That's a great question. I think there's a really fine balance because anywhere could get overpopulated with foreigners, and I'm hyper aware I'm one of those people that's not here. I'm not contributing to other people's experience coming here and going, oh, this is so authentic, like an English girl. Obviously not. I'm part of the people coming in and viewing it and enjoying it for what it is. We need Portuguese people here to keep that dynamic alive and the traditions alive and the language and God, everything like that.
Pedro's story is beautiful, isn't it? From the Bikuya at the cafe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean he just tell the story because his father was originally.
Sure. So it was his grandfather, who was called Germano. And his grandfather owned a bike workshop essentially there and a bike rental business out of the same place as the bike cafe is now. And they rented bikes to, for example, to get people to the train station in Messines, which is only like 10k up the road.
It's a long way for normal people.
It's a long way for normal people.
100 kilometers a day on a bicycle.
Well, back in those days, it was a doddle as well, because people walked and cycled everywhere, didn't they?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
donkeys.
You're right. Yeah.
We're just a bit lazy these days.
That's true.
Soft. We're very soft.
Okay, I understand what you're saying to me.
You're soft.
I'm soft.
We got it.
Getting softer by the minute.
We're talking
Just
about
out
your
of
new YouTube channel where you're going to do press-ups for us every morning.
Maybe.
We'll see about that. Anyway, so Germano had that set up, and then
And this was what in the 50s or
I think it was 40s.
40s, right,
50s.
1940s,
Yeah. And then many years later, Pedro, who had gone away to Lisbon, eventually came back and had this idea to rekindle the idea of this cycling hub, I guess, in Alte with a new twist. So, cycling cafe, and they sell. He makes cycling jewelry and all sorts of fun things and art.
He's a workshop as well.
And it's a workshop. He's a mechanic as well.
Okay,
So
right.
people bring their bikes to Pedro, and he looks
So
at
he
them.
pulls a coffee and then fixes the chain.
And for me, I mean, I don't know what I would do without Pedro and Anna and what they do there, because it gives so much to my clients. I mean, we start and finish all rides there. I've had, little tiny things that go wrong with bikes all the time, and he can see to them. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
But I think
so we've got a really good
it's a good
synergy.
relationship because he benefits from you,
And it's
you
so
benefit
important
from
to
him.
keep those relationships healthy. So, yeah, but I think that's how it should be. That's community, isn't it?
Jumping out of Ulth for a second and going to Monchique, where there's
Yeah.
another bike. It's the only other bike cafe that I know of in Algarve.
Yeah, I think there might be some other one near Villa de Biche where I got now, but I haven't been there.
Okay.
But yeah,
And is it similar, like where he's got a shop
it's
as well
much
as
bigger,
as a cafe?
actually. It's a great setup up there. If anyone goes to Monchique and they're into biking, you can't really miss it on the way up.
It's right next to those fountains,
yeah.
in the town square.
And I mean, I can't speak to it completely, but I believe that building is probably owned by maybe the town council. I don't know whether they've bought it off them or they're renting, but it's a fantastic space. The bike workshop there is much bigger. The offering for the food is huge. I mean, you can see a lot of people in and out there. They do lunches, brunches, everything.
Is this quite a thing in the UK, having these bike cafes?
Bike cafes are definitely a thing now.
With you can buy a bike, you can do all that kind of. They have bike
It's
shops
just,
and bike.
yeah, you
I've
roll
seen
up
it.
when you've been cycling and you feel welcomed by the cafe. And if you've got a problem, it can be seen to. But also they get the fact that you might want to eat certain foods, or you might come in completely wet, soaked through. If you turn up to other cafes with bikes, sometimes you're like looked at a bit strangely. Anyway, in any country, not just here, but any.
I suppose it's like dog-friendly cafes as well.
Yeah,
the same
it's a
kind
little
of thing.
bit like that. Yeah, and then obviously they might have bike races on the TV or memorabilia around. It's just a kind of theme, I guess. But up there in Monchique, and the same down here, it's not just cyclists who are enjoying it. I mean, it's just a nice place to be, and they do good food. So
Sure. Awesome. Well, Fiona, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a
It's been
pleasure.
wonderful. You showed me around Alton, and you've given us incredible insight into the space that I couldn't get by just walking around here and doing a few drone shots. You know what I mean?
Well, I love it here. And I love showing people around, and I'd love more people to see it. Whether I want more foreigners to live here, well, I don't know. I think if they come, they put a bit of effort into renovating a house which is dilapidated, and they try and integrate a bit into the community, well, I think that can be only a positive.
Well, if you do want to see Alton, you want to see it by bicycle, here's your lady. Where do people find you online?
Paradise Cycling Tours. If you just Google that, you'll find me.
Or .com?
paradise-cycling.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. And
Thank you, Nick. As
speak to you again one day.
Always a pleasure.
Algarve addicts.com